Good morning to members of the media and those of you joining us via the various media platforms. Happy New Year and welcome to the first Government Post-Cabinet briefing for 2020. I am Sherry Ann Noel, sitting in for Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. This morning's press brief will be facilitated by the Minister for Youth, Sports, Culture and the Arts, Senator the Honourable Nolan Cox. Also, we have with us Honourable Nicholas Steele, Minister for Health, and we will also have with us Mr. Michael Stephen from the Inland Revenue Department, and he'll be giving us an update on tax compliance issues. We will first hear the presentations of the ministers and Mr. Stephen, after which media personnel, you'll be given the opportunity to pose your questions. We will begin this morning with our Minister for Youth, Sports, Culture and the Arts, Senator the Honourable Nolan Cox. We know that 2019 has been a rather incredible year for us under all the fairs that he oversees in terms of youth, sports, culture, and the arts. So we are going to begin with him this morning. He's going to give us a synopsis of 2019 and some of the important events and activities that would form part of 2020. Senator Cox.
Thank you very much, Ms. Noel. Pleasant morning and Happy New Year to listeners, viewers, and of course, some media personnel here. My fellow cabinet colleague, Honorable Minister for Health and International Business, Nicholas Steele, and also government colleague, Inland Revenue, Mr. Stevens. This morning I'll be speaking a little bit on sports and also not necessarily on culture, but also there'll be an opportunity for persons to ask questions, and we'll see how best we can provide responses. First, we're going to start off with cricket. We have international cricket starting this Sunday. We know that Ireland is touring the West Indies. So West Indies versus Ireland this Sunday at in the cricket stadium, National Cricket Stadium. They'll be here for two games, one day, international one day, and a T20. The T20 will be next week, Wednesday. So we have cricket, lovely cricket. Tickets are on sale currently at the local box office at the National Stadium. So persons can go there and get tickets. In terms of pricing, there are three categories of pricing for the tickets. The main stand, which is $15 or 40 EC. The premium stand or pavilion is $25 or 67.50 EC, and uncovered stand is $5 or $15 EC, which is quite affordable. So we expect persons to come out and support our cricketers as they take on Ireland in the third. That we should be the third one day. We hope 2-for-2 things coming into Sunday's game. Either we'd have already won the first two, or even if it's 1-1, the deciding game would be on Sunday in Grenada. The first one day starts today at I think it's Jamaica today. So we wish the West Indies all the best. We want to also say that the Cricket West Indies board, we have been working with them closely, and they have been work with us as well to give some support to ensure that cricket continues to come to Grenada. And so we had cricket in 2018. England was here in 2018. And we have cricket here in 2019. Ireland is here in 2019. We also have an agreement for cricket in 2020. Pakistan should be here in 2020, I believe, sometime in July, August. And then again, Ireland returns the following year, 2022, in I think January, February. So over this 4 years, we have international cricket in Grenada. And so we want to thank the Cricket West Indies board for working with us to ensure that cricket continues to come to Grenada. It's a sport that we love very much. And of course, it does bring important economic activity for Grenada as well. In terms of the tickets for senior citizens, persons 60 and over, of course, you're going to be allowed to enter free, so no charge for persons 60 and over. For persons 12 and under, once an adult ticket is purchased, any child 12 and under can enter with the purchase of an adult ticket. So that is the basic guidelines for the ticket sales. As in terms of sponsors, the T20 is going to be sponsored by Sandals, of course, and the one day is sponsored by Colonial Medical Insurance. So we expect some lovely, exciting cricket at our national stadium starting this weekend and moving over into Wednesday. Wednesday's game, T20 game, is going to start at 1 p.m. For obvious reasons, because we do not have a lighting facility. So that game is going to start 1 p.m. and should finish by 5 thereabout. It's a 4.5 hour game for the T20. And the one day will start 9:30 on Sunday. Moving on to other matters, the Ministry of Sports, we are embarking on a very important initiative. This Friday and Saturday, we are going to commence our inaugural Sports Medicine Conference. It's a conference that the ministry believes is important for the development of sports in Grenada. This conference will be targeting 3 categories of professionals. Doctors who work with sporting organizations, institutions, like when we have our intercall, those doctors who work during those events, or physiotherapists and physical trainers, and or coaches, or coaches, various sporting disciplines, coaches. So these are the categories of persons who will be at that conference. We have a team of 6 persons coming from the United States, comprising of sports medicine doctors, internal medicine, physical trainers, and coaches who will work along in terms of doing presentations at that important inaugural sports conference. Some of the topics that will be looked at, areas like concussions, ultrasound, different type of injuries, how to identify those injuries, how to treat them. Basically, bringing our professionals up to speed in terms of new technologies in dealing with sports and athletic injuries. It is our intention to have this conference annually, so different persons will come and present on different things going forward to keep our professionals in Grenada quite up to date. So that is, we believe, is a very important initiative, and we're hoping that we can pull that off successfully. We want to thank the Ministry of Education, of course, and the Ministry of Health for working with us to ensure that the persons come out to participate in this important event. Also, the associations, they are also critical in terms of us having this event come off successfully. That's on Friday and Saturday of this week. So just to inform about this important development. The last thing that I want to raise just quickly, and very importantly as well, the Grenada Amateur Swimming Association, GASA. As you know, that we have been working with the government of Grenada in securing an aquatic facility, a pool, for quite some time. Government would have last year officially vested in GASA a parcel of land for that facility. Sometime last year, GASA would have made a submission to FINA for a grant support towards a pool. We have received unofficial notice that that proposal has been approved. We, at this point in time, do not have figures in terms of what that grant support will be, but we are hoping that it can be as significant as FINA is allowed to provide for us, because we really want to commence this project sometime this year. It is important to highlight that government was critical in terms of providing support towards this proposal by way of a commitment letter providing a 15-year support towards the maintenance of that facility. So that was a critical component towards GASA getting that proposal approved. We continue to work with GASA, and we continue to appeal to the private sector to support this initiative, whatever contributions they can make, because we're going to need all hands on board to bring this pool to a reality. We are working towards a 50-meter pool. Based on preliminary estimates, the facility will cost about 1.2 million US dollars to have this 50-meter pool. We think that it is the best approach instead of going to a 25-meter pool as the other OECS islands. We think having a 50-meter pool of Olympic standard is the best approach. So we will give more update when we have more details as to the amount of that grant support from FINA, and we continue to work with GASA and of course all our stakeholders, the association, the Grenada Olympic Committee, for the continued efforts to ensure that this project becomes a reality. So as regards to my contribution here this morning, this is what I want to update the public on today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Cox. That was a rather comprehensive update as to what's happening within the Ministry of Sports and what's to come. And as I said in the introductory remarks, we will hold the questions until the end of all the presentations. So at this time, I want to turn the microphone over to Honorable Nicholas Steele, Minister for Health, Social Security and International Business.
Thank you, Sherian, and let me acknowledge also my cabinet colleague, Senator Nolan Cox and Mr. Michael Stevens, and to you, members of the media and those who are listening, to wish you all a happy New Year. All the best for 2020. It is the first chance I have gotten to meet with you face to face. Some of you have seen before. Just to give you an update of imminent activities within the Ministry of Health and General Hospital and various health centers throughout the island. First and foremost, or primary on my list, is I'm happy to announce that by the middle of February, the Ministry of Health at the General Hospital will be offering dialysis treatment. This is as a result of work done by a team over the holiday period to finalize with the various bidders. There were numerous entities that had put forward proposals, and we looked through all of those proposals, did a weighting and scoring and analysis of it, and can say that we will be starting dialysis at the General Hospital by the middle of February. This will be facilitated first and foremost with the use of between 2 and 3 portable dialysis machines, which will be set up at the General Hospital. And then later on in the year, those will be replaced by approximately 5 permanent dialysis machines at the General Hospital. The portable machines will then be moved, one to Princess Alice in St. Andrews and the other to Princess Royal in Carriacou to offer dialysis treatment there. The dialysis treatment across the board is expected to be in the region of between $300 and $400 EC per treatment, a significant decrease from the current $750 that is being charged at present. That was what we were working on significantly, which was not just to provide dialysis treatment through the Ministry of Health, but to make sure that it was affordable as much as possible, and that price was subsidized significantly and would be available to the public at large. This does not negate the current support that government does give to those who qualify for that financial support. In November, late November, the government announced an increase of that support from 1,000 EC dollars a month to 3,000 EC dollars a month. That support would also go towards the dialysis treatment. If you do the numbers, it works out that eventually individuals will be able to receive, those who are on financial support and those who are not. The target is that everyone can receive at least 3 treatments per week, but at minimum 2 treatments per week of dialysis nationwide. The other main event or activity for the General Hospital in particular, we have embarked on the replacement of elevators at the General Hospital. This is going to be a lengthy process. It's going to take approximately a year to replace those elevators. The reason that it takes that long is because we have 2 elevators currently at the General Hospital. One of the elevators has to be removed and then a new elevator put in, and then after that is complete, the second elevator work can be done on the second elevator shaft. to remove and then replace that one. This is to ensure that at no time is there the occasion or risk of not having a functioning elevator at the general hospital. Those elevators are well past their, as we would say, shelf life. We have embarked over the previous years on various efforts to maintain them, but in our opinion, it is now time to replace those elevators. The approximate budget on that is 1.5 million EC dollars. Also, we had scheduled to embark on an upgrade of our oxygen production at the General Hospital with the new phase 2, but have made the decision to replace completely at a higher level the oxygen production at the General Hospital, which will facilitate both the current facility and the new phase 2 facility. I have come here numerous times to discuss with you or to update you on various maintenance efforts, most recently with the visit of the USS Comfort when they did maintenance on the oxygen plant. So that oxygen plant has been plagued consistently with issues of maintenance. So we're biting the bullet. It is functioning right now, but we're biting the bullet to replace it and therefore have redundancies in place with the current oxygen plant and brand new oxygen plant that will be purchased. We also will start in January. All of these things are for January. In January, we also will start construction on our NICU unit, neonatal intensive care unit. We have had the plans approved, working in conjunction with Pan American Health Organization and the Ministry of Works here. I will be awarding the contract within the next week or two to an individual. I expect that work to take maybe a month or two. It is not that significant. But as a result, when we are complete, we will have, based on the ratio for population and births, one of the most, or the best NICU unit within the OECS, one of the best NICU units within the OECS. This is with power certification in terms of the numbers. In fact, I found it was a bit large, but I am yielding to them. It is better for us to have more than we need than less than we need, especially when it comes to neonatal intensive care there. So I want to thank the individuals who have participated in this, Pan American Health Organization, Pediatric Ward, and General Hospital Administration for this. Also, I'm pleased to announce that within next week, I expect to begin the moving into the phase 2 of the General Hospital. This will be a phased process that will take a couple of months to ensure that there is minimum interruption of services. It will start with administration moving in, then labs, then accident and emergency, and then imaging. We may be able to switch and have imaging and accident and emergency move in parallel. But that will be the schedule of moving in. This is with over the months of November and December. I've been meeting weekly with contractors and senior staff of Ministry of Health and Ministry of Implementation to ensure that we stick with the timelines. And we now have an all clear to begin our process of moving in. Now that move in, particularly for labs, results in our laboratories at the General Hospital being upgraded to a Tier 1 facility. We have signed off, secured funding through the OECS and World Bank, which will bring our lab from its current status to a Tier 1, which is, in other words, the best ranking that we can get for our lab. We are working in conjunction with Caribbean Med Lab Association, Pan American Health Organization, and, as I said, with OECS, CARFA, and World Bank on this. So that move is not just a move of the existing facility and the existing services that are being offered, but will result by the end of that move in an complete upgrade to a Tier 1 facility. Also, as was announced, but to confirm, is still on schedule, when we move over into the new facility with respect to imaging, we will have a complete upgrade of our imaging systems. No longer will we just be offering X-ray, but we will also have our CT scanner installed in the new phase 2 of the General Hospital, a 128-slice CT scanner. Thanks to the assistance that we have received from the Maria Holder Memorial Foundation, we have done our necessary counterpart commitment on it, so that we can go ahead with the delivery and installation of CT scanner, and not just X-ray and other forms of imaging that are currently offered at the General Hospital. I'm also pleased to announce that the Crowshoe Medical Center was reopened. I want to thank the members of the neighborhoods around that access that for their patience, and look forward to us, not just that we have opened the facility, but to now move forward with increased services being offered. Throughout 2020, we will embark on a very aggressive upgrading of all of our primary healthcare facilities throughout the island. That is thanks to the funding received from the same OECS health upgrade, which is approximately $6 million US. The healthcare facilities have been identified. The ministry will make an announcement in the next week or two as the contracts are being awarded for the various healthcare facilities that will be upgraded, primary healthcare facilities that will be upgraded. I want to thank those who are participating in this process, but also ask the members of the general public to bear with us as we upgrade those facilities. There may be interruptions, or will be interruptions in services at some of those facilities, but it is in the effort to improve the conditions there and the services being offered throughout. We also expect by next week to announce the list of the first tranche, 50 nursing assistants that will begin training. That process is well underway. In fact, we are looking at increasing the numbers from 50 to offer another tranche. So follow us, and next week we will be announcing those individuals will be notified, and then we will be announcing again the initiatives that we have taken to increase the numbers, or to have a new tranche as well within 2020 for training. By February, end of February to March, we expect to have installed at the General Hospital, Princess Alice and Princess Royal, a central dispatch system. We had spoken in 2019, we increased the number of ambulances that we had, full complement of ambulances, enough to service the entire island. The further step on that, as I had said, would be to move to a central dispatch. That has been secured in terms of funding, in terms of costing, in terms of supplier. So we are beginning the implementation process of that central dispatch system. That will result in an individual throughout the length and breadth of Grenada being able to dial 434 or 911. They will get to a central dispatch. They will give their location and the nature of their emergency, and the appropriate response will be directed to them. What exists right now is that the individuals either call their health centers, they call 434, and the call is directed actually to accident and emergency. And there are occasions when accident and emergency is busy, and sometimes there are delays in receiving the call, and there are delays in reacting to the call. So we're going to have a central dispatch. That central dispatch will also be coordinated with police and fire as well. So we have been working with both of those entities to make sure that this rolls out. The other update, just to give you, those of you who are not passing on the Western Corridor on a regular basis in the St. John, St. Mark's area, just to say that the St. John's, St. Mark's Polyclinic is not just going ahead full steam, but ahead of schedule with respect to construction. So we expect to maintain that timeline of being ahead of schedule and have that facility up and running by the end of 2020. And finally, in closing, just to give you all a reminder that based on the legislation that we did pass, which was from consultation with all the stakeholders, as of this month, the increased contributions in NIS begin. But also, you will be very much aware that as of this month, increased benefits from NIS also begin. So thank you, and if there are any questions, I'd be willing to take them.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Steele. I know that you've gave a lot of food for thought and a lot of information here in your presentation. However, at this time, I want us to move along and invite to the microphone Mr. Michael Stephen from the Inland Revenue Division to give an update on tax compliance issues. Mr. Stephen.
Good morning to all. I want to wish the viewing public a happy and prosperous and healthy 2020. And I also want to, but I can't not do this. I have to encourage the public to remain compliant in your tax obligations. File, pay on time so that you will not find yourselves in any problems with the Inland Revenue Division. I believe my task here this morning was to field some questions from the media concerning a specific tax compliance issue. So I was not here to make a presentation per se, but I'll just say that in terms of tax compliance, we look at voluntary compliance and forced compliance. Voluntary compliance is when the taxpayers would pay and file their obligations on time based on the law. And forced compliance is when we have non-compliant taxpayers that will have to implement certain tax legislations to ensure that they make their payments on time. We encourage the voluntary form of compliance. In fact, the Inland Revenue Division has a comprehensive compliance strategy in place that we update on an annual basis, and that guides our compliance efforts annually. In terms of compliance rates, because the different tax types have different compliance rates, we range from a low with the annual stamp tax around 30% to the VAT, which goes up to about 90%. So the VAT is a very compliant tax. Well, business places have to collect the VAT from the consuming public and pay it to the government of Grenada. So, and there are very high penalties for not doing so. So that is one of the reasons why the VAT compliance rate is very high, and we want to encourage that as we go along. The purpose of paying taxes is fundamental, is so that the government can have the necessary revenues in order to ensure that the public services are delivered to the public, right? And that is why the Customs and Inland Revenue Division are tasked with the responsibilities of collecting taxes from the population, right? The Inland Revenue Division has to collect somewhere around just over $360 million per year, right? And we have been doing so. The Customs and Excise Division has a similar amount to collect as well, and we are working assiduously to do so. So, in essence, that's what I wanted to begin with in terms of my introductory comments on tax compliance, and I will now, field questions after the ministers would have had their say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. Members of the media, at this time, we would open up for you to pose your questions. And as per usual, we'd ask you to identify yourself and your media house before you pose a question to any of the members on the head table.
Good morning. My name is Linda Schraker, and I'm a freelance journalist. I have a number of questions for each minister, but I'm going to start with the person who's the Minister Steele, and then ask Mr. Stevens. Minister, can you just explain, you said in rounding up, NIS benefit will also increase? Just explain that a bit. There is something else needed to ask. In terms of, you said throughout 2020, there will be upgrades of a number of facilities. What is the amount allotted to that? And the third question for now is the nursing program. When you initially announced that in the latter part of last year, there was some concerns thrown about that who claimed to not be aware of it. Update us as to who will be conducting the training, what level of CVQ it is, and where the training will be conducted.
Okay, on your first question with respect to the benefits with respect to maternity leave, that has been regularized. As you know, we went to Parliament and we made the various changes there, and also funeral benefits increase with NIS. The dollar value for the upgrade of facilities, it's a two-part. The government of Grenada has allocated a certain amount of funds that can, and also we are continuing with the project from European Development Fund, but specifically the one that is impacting on 2020 would be from the IMF IDA, which is approximately $6 million that will be used throughout for the upgrade of the various facilities, primary healthcare facilities. Your final question with respect to comments also made in the facilities, I am expecting to push ahead with, right now when I've mentioned about the increase of numbers and so, we are going to be engaging TAMCC and using the Ministry of Health nursing educators as well to increase the number of nursing assistants that we will be training. Also to initiate within this month a midwifery training or specialized training through the Ministry of Health using quite likely either TAMCC or SGU. In terms of other entities that have made comments about not having correspondence with us or so, I've moved way beyond that. My goal right now is to train as many of our young individuals who are willing to become nursing assistants and nurses and doctors, and I will work with any and all entities that are willing to cooperate fully in the best interest of Grenada. Comments that are made otherwise, I think, kind of show those who are willing to cooperate and those who are not.
Just from clarity on the nursing, is it now a CVQ or is it part of an associate degree?
With TAMCC has its own level of qualification. When we are using independent or private entities for education, we have to work through NTA for CVQ.
Is there a cost already determined that how much is going to cost the participant?
There is a budget. The budget is being shared with youth and health to move forward.
What about the participant, persons who want to be trained, do they have to pay anything because now it's in college?
This is government subsidized training.
Will they receive a stipend?
Those who qualify for a stipend. They are because the challenges are in order to stretch our budgets and make sure that we train as many people as possible. There are individuals who may not need a stipend or would not qualify for a stipend, but in most cases, individuals would receive a stipend for the training.
So let me just get it straight. The program will now be undertaken by TAMCC. It will be falling part of the TAMCC curriculum.
We, the Ministry of Health, working with the Nursing Council. The Nursing Council is responsible for training and education of nurses and setting the standards. Mm-hmm. They decide on the qualifications for nursing assistants, nurses in Grenada. So we're working with them. My point of contact through the ministry to the council is the chief nursing officer. She is also head of the council. So we're working together to have the relevant qualifications passed on by the relevant individuals. So the council has to approve the individuals to do the training, the syllabus, etc.
No, I'm just trying to clarify whether or not the training that will be accepted, would it be something that will be accepted regionally and not just locally?
Yes, the council works with the regional council. So with respect to nursing assistants, and so it would be regionally accepted. It is my desire to ensure that the individuals have the equivalent of a CVQ.
Okay. The midwifery program, would it also be part of the TAMCC curriculum?
Midwifery program will be taught by the Ministry of Health, our nursing educators. Facilities, we have two options with respect to facilities. We may use both, which is St. George's University or TAMCC. Midwifery training involves a certain amount of classroom time as well as practical, which would be at the general hospital or primary healthcare facilities as well. We are limited not by the facilities. We are limited by the fact that the individuals that we are training have to come out of the existing nurses that are in the system. So we can only afford to have a certain amount absent from the system, i.e. being trained at that time, and that is what limits our numbers at present.
Thank you. My other question to Mr. Stephen. Last week, I think, I received a press release from the Ministry of Finance advising certain professionals that today, the 7th, is the deadline for being licensed. Can you tell us, first of all, one of the categories were commercial traveler. So can you explain to me what is a commercial traveler and the other professionals? How are they been complying over the years, and today being the deadline, do you expect a rush or people has been voluntarily complying?
Yes, today is the 7th of January, and that is the designated date annually for license to be paid, professionals and otherwise. The ministry would have, well, Inland Revenue Division would have issued a press release with a list of licensed persons that are supposed to pay the license today. In the past, we have been having relatively good compliance, but we need to improve that. I believe that the question you asked about the commercial travelers, I would not want to answer that now because I am not entirely sure what that category is. Because in fact, I was researching it a few days ago, and it was kind of difficult to find the information. But license have to be paid today, and don't confuse that with motor vehicle license because that has a scheduled payment over time. But other license such as motor vehicle license, the bonded warehouses, the professionals, the lawyers, the medical professions and so forth, they all have to pay today. And that is the expectation. And I believe that most of them will do so. If they don't, there are certain fines that they are liable to pay. I believe the fine is $500. It's pretty small, and that is because it was set some time ago. In fact, we were looking at making a recommendation to change that, because this is modern times. Over time you'll have to change these fees as time progresses. But the fine is $500, and I encourage persons that are supposed to pay their license today to come out to the Inland Revenue Division and do so.
My other question. Sorry. During the month of December, we wake up that one of our popular supermarkets were no longer operating. An internal memo labeled as action taken by the government. Since then, we have heard so many other things. Are you at liberty presently to inform us what was responsible for this supermarket reopening a couple days just before Christmas? He said, when I spoke to him personally, he said to me, his exact word, I think we reach a solution. And I said to him, you think? And he told me, stop wasting his time. Because so I want to know what type of resolution was sought between he holding a news conference on Friday evening and an announcement, a note going out via Facebook Monday morning that they were reopening.
Well, I cannot explain why the individual would have reopened his business at that time. That is a question for him to answer. However, we all know that the person in question is a non-compliant taxpayer, and several measures were implemented against him in order to get him to settle his obligations with the government of Grenada. In fact, these discussions are still ongoing. The matter has not been settled. The individual would have reopened his business, I believe, was on the 23rd of December. We would have received a letter from him on that day indicating that he has some proposal in order to settle the taxes in a very short period of time. And I would have responded to him accordingly, requesting certain information regarding what he would have said, and giving him a time frame in which to do so. That time frame has not expired as yet, but I'm hoping that the gentleman will respond to us as soon as possible so that we can bring this matter to a settlement, because it is a long-standing issue. I wish to settle it so that government can receive their due taxes and that he can operate comfortably, because as we issued a note to the public shortly after the supermarket was shut down. And it clearly stated that government had no intention of shutting down the supermarket. We did not do anything to do that. Obviously, there are measures that government will have taken that may have caused the individual to be in a challenged position so that he would have had to take that course of action. But it's not something that we want it to happen, because we understand that there are persons that are working, they have obligations, personal obligations, and so we didn't want that to occur. But it did, and since then we have been having conversations with the taxpayer in order to settle the matter in as soon as possible time, so that he can resume his operations and government can receive what is due to them. So at present, I am currently awaiting a response from the gentleman so that we can move forward with this issue.
Are you able to share with us the deadline that was provided to him as to what time he needs to, the proposal he submitted, what's the deadline for him to be in full compliance and move forward smoothly?
Well, the response, a response and a settlement was targeted at the end of January 2020.
January 31st?
Yes.
Okay. He held this news conference. Some people claim they was a bit confused. Now that you are here, can you just explain to us, members of the media, who are not economists, and we normally have to take quotes and explain things on somebody's behalf, how VAT operates? He was claiming that he pays VAT at the port, and then he still have to pay VAT. Can you just explain to the wider public, because you're live on television, how VAT operates, and how were he able to garner all this millions, as he claimed, to be owing to government?
Well, actually, I don't want to enter into a conversation on the operation of VAT at this time. VAT is a very technical tax. In fact, it's the most technical tax. However, what the basic thing you should understand is that the VAT is not an expense to a business operation, unless you are not registered, right? Persons will register for the VAT, and because of that, they will collect it from the taxpaying public and pay it into the government of Grenada. And that is as simple as it is. I know Mr. Handel embarked on a possible explanation as to what the VAT is and how it functions and so, but he was totally incorrect in the way he was explaining it. I believe he didn't understand it. And he probably should have brought his accountant to do so. And I'm certainly not going to lecture the public on how VAT operates. Yes, you also asked about the accumulation of the... How
was that able to accumulate so much?
Yeah, well, clearly the taxpayer was not paying into government of Grenada the VAT on time and at all, actually. So that is why it accumulated to such large amounts over time. And, efforts were made to rectify that situation over time, and it was futile. And that is why when the opportunity presented itself with the sale of that building in town, we had to take the opportunity to try and collect what was due to the government of Grenada. And it is an ongoing task, and as I said, we want to bring it to conclusion as soon as possible.
Any other member of the media?
Chrisanne Mitchell, GIS. Minister Cox, concerning the sports medicine conference, what follow-up measures will be undertaken to ensure that not only the specialists are updated on ways and technologies as it relates to injuries, but the local coaches as well?
Thank you very much for your question. Basically, what will be happening is that we will have some of our senior coaches there. And the idea is that they, in turn, will transfer that knowledge to the junior coaches. So that is the approach that we are doing right now. So senior coaches are going to be part of that conference.
Minister Steele, concerning the central dispatch system as it relates to it. How will it work? Dealing with issues of availability and timeliness. Will there be a cost because there is usually an ambulance fee?
There won't be any increase in costs also to the public. The central dispatch is in an effort on our part to become more efficient and effective with respect to reaction time and the quality of reaction. So the central dispatch is coordinated with police and with fire, i.e. if someone calls to report a serious accident to the police, the central dispatch will automatically also notify ambulatory services or fire services. If someone calls for a house fire, ambulance would also be notified or so. But if in general somebody is calling for an ambulance, that central dispatch will dictate as to whether to use ambulance from the St. John's area, from St. Andrews, from Sauters, from Grand Anse, from General Hospital, from St. David's, or so, depending on the location. And also, they would have the information as to what the other ambulances are doing at that present time. And that is, in essence, the benefit of that. Having one location that is dispatching the ambulances, that one location knows where every ambulance is.
Excuse the voice. Rena Pierre, GBN. Minister Steele, let's just start with you. Could you tell me more about the central dispatch as it relates to training, persons involved, as it relates to having the proper persons there who are trained and ready for that sort of system? And could you give me an update as it relates to the health chat? Yeah.
With respect to the training of individuals for the central dispatch, yes, training has started in terms of the identifying of the individuals. There will be various levels of training. When we first begin compared to 6 to 8 months later, there will be a difference in the level of training and qualified persons involved in the central dispatch, as well as training and upgrading of the individuals who respond on ambulances. So that is an ongoing and continuous effort or initiative by the Ministry of Health. In the beginning, we will have individuals with basic medical knowledge or so, giving support to other individuals who are answering the phones. And then by the end of the period, we will have mainly qualified persons who would have had training in EMS or other areas of specialty that are relevant. And then one officer who is quite, the expectation is that that person would be an A&E specialist that would be giving further consultation or support to that central dispatch unit. In terms of the health chat, we have been using Facebook and other social media to disseminate. But I would say that we were focusing on the other areas. The health chat, as we would all expect it, myself included, I don't think is functioning the way I would like to see it. It would be something that we would focus on, but as you have seen, we've been busy on other areas of relevance. The health chat still is very important to me because it allows feedback. It allows us to hear from individuals, and it allows us to answer directly to individuals. The main constraint there is with who do I put to moderate that health chat, to have the appropriate person and make sure that that appropriate person is not distracted from their relevant duties that they're performing. Do I have the hospital director? Do I have the medical director, the chief medical officer, or myself, or the permanent secretary, or all of us at a certain time? Those are some of the constraints that we have had, and to be honest, we've been focusing on other items, and then every now and then we pick back up on the health chat. I think with the launch of the government, further improvements that were announced last month in government information with respect to social media and so, we would be able to incorporate it there as opposed to the Ministry of Health moving forward, independently setting that up. Because I think there are other ministries that would be looking at having something similar.
So how soon do you think we would see the rolling out of the dispatch? And you mentioned about the dialysis coming up. Are nurses ready and trained as it relates to that specific department? And if not, are we heading to that direction since we're going into to that line? One more thing. How long would it take for the second phase, the full moving into the second phase of the hospital?
Let's try and take them one at a time. In terms of the central dispatch, you would begin to see by the end of January to middle of February the effects of the central dispatch. The first effects of the central dispatch. The first delay is the procurement and installation of the equipment. We've worked with Digicel and Flow right now to be able to use the equipment we have, to have calls directed to the appropriate location to allow us to do central dispatch. Your second question? Dialysis, in terms of the training of nurses, and so yes, we do have individuals qualified, but part of this initiative is also to have we are issuing a management contract as well. We will have a separate entity managing the dialysis services in Grenada. They will receive support from our nurses, our dietitian, and nephrology support that Government of Grenada currently has. We don't have a nephrologist on staff, but a nephrologist or the services of a nephrologist can be procured and not necessarily physically present. So we'll be working with the service provider. They are going to be contracted to provide the necessary level of service to the dialysis patients. Second phase, I would expect us in the last half of 2020 to complete that move. It's much slower than would be expected, so because we have to make sure that services aren't interrupted. Also, with respect to medical equipment, some of the procurement takes 6 months, 8 months, and they've already been ordered, but they take a while to be brought in. But as far as I'm concerned, we should be in by the second half, completely in, by the second half of 2020. I am anxious to see that happen because I want to start work on Rathdoon as well at the General Hospital to improve the facilities there. We've seen and we've been experiencing challenges in mental health because of the overcrowding at Mount Gay. Part of that solution would be to reconstruct Rathdoon at its previous location. So that's why we continue to have meetings every week. And that's why I am going to be spending, and Permanent Secretary as well, at least 1 or 2 days of the week at the General Hospital in that location to monitor and oversee, take personal responsibility for that move, to coordinate all of those efforts. Since we made that decision in November, we have seen a marked improvement with respect to sticking to timelines and shrinking those timelines down. You have heard me come numerous times and give timelines where there are certain factors outside of my control. What myself and my Permanent Secretary have done now is that we are actively, weekly involved to make sure that we stick to those timelines, that we can possibly come back and say before the second half of 2020 that the move is complete. What would restrict us in that move would be the delivery of some of the key equipment and so. So accident and emergency, moving with the services that we currently have into the facility that we're in total control of. The new equipment, having it delivered to the site, having it initiated or set up by whoever is supplying it and switched on. Those are some of the issues that we are not necessarily in control of.
Still continue on the dialysis. You mentioned one, it will cost, I think, $300 per treatment, and the intention is to make it affordable. What is responsible for dropping that cost practically by half? And then you also mentioned that separate entity will be managing it. Who is that separate entity?
The reason for the primary reason for the drop in cost is government subsidies. government will be subsidizing significantly the dialysis services in Grenada. So we subsidize right now and give support to those who can't afford to pay. It will be on a system that those who can afford, or visitors who have health insurance, etc., they will be charged the maximum. But the Grenadian citizens, the initiative is, or the expectation is, to have a decrease in the cost of dialysis treatment on the whole. The announcement with respect to who would be managing, I would ask you to give me a week, simply because I want to afford the courtesy to all of those who put forward requests for them to be notified first. The individual that was successful has been notified, but to notify all of the others, and not have them hear it at a post-cabinet briefing whether they did or did not receive a favorable nod.
Ms. Shrika, just one moment. If you could just allow the new today to ask a question, please.
A local company that is getting it, or international or regional company.
Even if I say that, there are local individuals who put forward proposals, as well as regional individuals and extra-regional individuals. So within a week, all information will be clear. Like I said, it's not to deny any information or prevent any information coming out. It's just to afford a courtesy within the bidding process and so. But I wanted to make this announcement because at present there are individuals who are receiving dialysis that have grave concerns as to the continuation of their dialysis treatment. So this is why, and this is the primary reason I'm making this public announcement now, so to give them a certain amount of comfort that we have met kept our promise, and we intend to meet that deadline of middle of February to be able to provide dialysis treatment through the General Hospital. Because it's been I've received calls over the holidays from individuals who are on dialysis expressing their extreme concern, and I can understand where they're coming from. So I think it was necessary. That's why we worked over the Christmas and New Year's holiday period to make sure that we were able to fast track this, to be able to make this announcement today.
Miriam Tawfiq, WeiVybz. Minister Cox, I have a question as it relates to this conference on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Is it open to everyone? And I just want to put my two questions out there, two for Minister Steele. She mentioned that ambulance response, emergency response system. Can you speak to the St. David's ambulance and how that system works as it relates to the timeline from getting a person to the hospital for emergency care? And also, if you can speak to the Grenada's involvement in the tension between the U.S. and Iran. Oil prices went up recently, and we just want to know what's Grenada's role, or where do we stand as it relates to that?
Thank you very much for your question. As it relates to persons who we're targeting for this post-conference, as I indicated earlier, we just targeting 3 categories of persons: medical doctors, physiotherapists and trainers, and our senior coaches. It's not going to be open to the general public. So those are the professionals we are targeting with this conference in particular. Thank you.
With respect to your first question, St. David's, I have recognized inefficiencies in the way St. David's currently functions, the ambulatory services in St. David's. That's one of the efficiencies I expect to see with a central dispatch. Right now is dependent on, if you call the St. David's Health Center or so, it's dependent on an individual answering there. And therefore, sometimes you will not get 24-hour response at St. David's because it depends on somebody being in the health center or wherever the ambulance is parked. Sometimes we have made adjustments where the ambulance sometimes is at the police station. Both of those alternatives aren't the best. So having a central dispatch system, all you need is the driver and the relevant nurse on standby but the individual who receiving the call will be in the central area, which would be monitored 24/7 to allow the dispatch of an ambulance from St. David's, from Grand Anse, or from St. Andrews, depending on where the person is located. So that is what we expect to remedy. There have been some shortfalls, as far as I'm concerned, with St. David's and some of the other facilities where ambulances are. So we procured the right amount of ambulances. We had them in the right location. We now have to, in order to ensure that service is guaranteed to the expectation of the public, to make sure that the next step is a central dispatch. With respect to what's going on geopolitically, internationally, I'll leave those comments to the Prime Minister or the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We all, as Grenadians, we recognize that we live in an island, and what goes on internationally does affect us. You mentioned oil prices and so yes, it has concerns for us, but we look on. We are a small island nation, and we have a ministry and a Minister of Foreign Affairs and a Prime Minister.
Okay.
This is a quick follow-up to the previous question. Just for further clarity, at the beginning of the conference, of course, the media will be welcome to interview the facilitators as well, just for the starting and maybe to get shots during the conference. Just as a follow-up.
Do we have... Okay, Nisha, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Nisha Paul, the New Today newspaper. Mr. Stevens, just for clarity, right? Can you explain? I know you made some statements earlier when Straker asked you a question relating to how VAT operates. But can you explain how VAT is applied to the retailer as opposed to a service provider?
Oh, as I said before, I do not want to lecture the public on VAT. There are other avenues for engaging the specific operation of VAT, and you are welcome to visit the Inland Revenue Division, where we can sit in a more proper environment and field questions and probably do some kind of presentation on the VAT. I don't want to enter into a discussion on the VAT at this time.
But Mr. Stephen, you can appreciate Mr. Andel would have made some statements as it relates to how VAT is applied to his business, and then a little while ago you said that he did not understand. So for clarity, can you just explain, briefly how it is applied?
No, I don't want to do that at this time.
Okay, so as it stands right now, you said that until month end, that is the deadline for response from the company as it relates to how the outstanding debts would be paid?
Yes, I would have mentioned that we gave him a deadline of the end of January to respond and possibly have a settlement of this entire issue.
All right, I have a question for Minister Steele. In your capacity as the Minister for International Business, can you comment on Grenada's ranking in the latest World Bank doing business report, please?
Well, Grenada improved by 1 point in the last ranking. I look at that simply as the decrease that we were experiencing has stopped. We've turned the corner to move up. It shows that some of the initiatives that we have implemented have been working, but have been working not fast enough. Doing business ranking, you have to recognize that it's not just an improvement of doing business in a country. It is an improvement of doing business in a country faster than other countries are improving. That's what increases your ranking. So it does show that the ease of doing business in Grenada has improved. It just means that it has not improved faster than a lot of others, but it has improved faster than at least one other in the ranking. So we have moved up by one. We do expect to further increase the resources that we have allocated, because it shows that the areas that we have been focusing on have been bearing fruit and producing results, and we will continue in 2020 to push forward on that. We have a couple more months before the 2020 ranking, because recognized by June, the questions go out and the relevant individuals will answer and pass on. So while the information is shared to the public in the last quarter of the year, it is only the first 2 quarters of the year that we have. So it's the last 2 quarters and the first 2 quarters that we make the improvements. So we are happy with the fact that it is not a decrease. I still maintain my consistent statements, although we have had an increase in the doing business ranking. For those who have been focusing primarily on it and using it as a point of public discussion, I'm not hearing much from them, because there has been an improvement in the doing business ranking. But as Minister of International Business, I continue to focus on the fact as to whether or not we can get international investment into Grenada. We have seen in 2019 significant announcements, significant investments that have opened, foreign investment that is open to the public, and we have seen foreign investment that is well under construction, and we have seen announcements of foreign investment about to start. The significance of that is, yes, our doing business ranking has improved, but more significantly, each of those investments that we have been announcing have been greater and greater and greater, more and more investment coming in. And also, at the same time, we are seeing a significant increase in investment by our local Grenadians in Grenada. So those are my comments, doing business ranking and investment in Grenada as a whole. I still toe the same line.
Thank you. Can you just speak to some of the areas that would have contributed significantly to the improvements in the ranking, and maybe highlights some of the areas of concern?
The areas that have improved would have contributed. The areas that we have improved would have been payment of taxes, would have been, remember, the legal decisions or court system. We have not, we are quite high up with respect to receiving electricity, water connections, and so, but there's areas for improvement, further improvement, or planning permits. But I think most definitely where we need to focus significant improvement on is in a credit bureau, credit ranking. There isn't a public accessible credit ranking system within the entire OECS. We've been working collectively with our OECS partners on that, and that would be a significant increase. Bankruptcy, while we passed the required bankruptcy legislations here in Grenada, no one has taken anybody to court to file for bankruptcy, forceful or voluntary bankruptcy. So that would be another area. If in 2020, for instance, someone voluntarily filed through the court system, or someone was taken to court and successfully forced someone to declare bankruptcy, that would result in an significant improvement in the ranking. Among the other areas that we consistently improve on, I know that Inland Revenue consistently moves to have the ease of payment of taxes, licensing, etc., and so too does Customs with their Asakuda system as well. So there are various areas that we have been improving. What doesn't help us, although we improve, is that most of our areas of improvement are coordinated efforts with Carriacou or OECS. So we all as a group move up or improve together, and not Grenada in isolation jumping forward. So that's basically what affects us in terms of improvement or slow improvement.
Members of the media, I know a few of the colleagues will have questions, so I would just allow one question each from GBN, Ms. Shrika, and the final one before we wrap this morning's conference. So one question
one other announcement
each.
when you come.
Okay.
Well, maybe I should make it now in case you have any other questions, and that is to say that my colleague and I, on behalf of our cabinet and Prime Minister, would like to announce what I would refer to as the shifting of a pillar. We regrettably but pleased that the individual is going to get some much needed rest, a person that we've all learned to rely on and have full respect for, and that is our cabinet secretary, She is retiring. I wish her all the best. It's Beryl Isaac. The years of service that she has given, she represents to us all, I think, the consummate public servant. Not only is she the most senior public servant, or was she the most senior public servant, but she represented the consummate public servant and had our respect regardless of how you interacted with her, whether on the same side of the table, other side of the table or so. She commanded that respect which was earned, she earned. The incoming acting cabinet secretary would be Ms. Ruth Rouse. She assumed the role. Ms. Isaac is on a leave and then retirement. So I wish her well, and I also wish the incoming cabinet secretary, Ms. Ruth Rouse, all the best and look forward to be working with her as well.
Okay, so my first question, my only question is to you, Minister Cox. I was not able to ask you. It's regarding the cricket stadium lighting. I know we're doing the games in 2018. I'm standing here to be corrected, but I remember one of the issues was finding the proper lighting. So I'm asking, how soon are the cricket lovers going to be able to get a night game?
Thank you very much for that question. Lighting, as you can see, the first leg of the T20 starts in Grenada, and we are the only of the venues that does not have lighting for night cricket. I can say, fortunately, we have made significant improvement in bringing that project to a reality. Last year we had a lot of challenges in working out a lot of technical details and finalizing a few things. And just at the close of the end of the year, the Procurement and Tenders Board would have given the no objection for the contractor to commence. And so we are working assiduously to have contract negotiations completed by this month, so that we can commence the implementation so the contractor can start the procurement. It's an equipment-intensive project, so it requires maybe three to 4 months for the poles and equipment and stuff to get here. And it takes about 2 months or so to install. So we're looking at that. The projects are dynamic, and a lot of things can happen and go wrong, but we are working to ensure that we have that project completed this year. That is our goal. It's a top priority for the Ministry of Sports to have light. I say this to say also that we have received expressions of interest from CPL teams, and I say not a CPL team, but CPL teams. So discussions will also commence together with the implementation of the lights. There are CPL teams expressing interest to make Grenada their home. So that will be a game changer for us in the area of cricket. So we are pretty excited about that. So that is where we are with the lighting. So we're looking to see how we can get this done. But we are pretty excited to finally have this project implemented. Thank you.
Morning. My question also is for Minister Cox. The Hillary term, or the second term, is well known as the athletic season. Last year we had a situation where we had the secondary school games. As the Minister for Sports, are you in a position to say, will that games happen again this year, or are we going to be returning to intercall? And the final, are you aware whether or not that there are athletes, international athletes, who would have participated in competition in Grenada under investigation for evading drug compliance? And the last one I need, Minister Steele, can you say who will be now the new PS in the Ministry of Legal Affairs, where Ms. Ruth Rouse would have served?
Thank you very much for those two questions. Okay, thanks. Let me start with the last one first. As regards to Grenada international athletes, all international athletes are very important towards Grenada in terms of propelling Grenada overseas. And recently, we have received unofficial reports, nothing official, that one of our athletes have been sanctioned and discussions are ongoing. But at this point in time, that is all we can say on that matter. The other question I can't recall. Just remind me.
The other question would be the sports season.
Oh yes, the intercall. Yes. Yes, we are going to have intercall this year. The Principal Association would have engaged us. Well, the Ministry of Education, of course, is the competent authority in terms of managing the intercall games. And so while sports, we handle the technical aspect, the games are actually run by education. And the Minister of Education have been working assiduously with all stakeholders to ensure that intercall happens for 2020. Added to that, the zonal meets are going to happen as well, and the Principal Association are going to be working with the Ministry of Sports and the Ministry of Education to implement the zonal games as well. So we're happy that we have moved beyond that impasse. I think there is great wisdom in recognizing the zonal meets that was put on by the Ministry of Education and Sports last year had significant value in terms of its format and what it can do, because most sports we have for athletes is create more opportunities for them to develop. So intercall alone probably wasn't sufficient in terms of what we want to do and create more opportunities, and we might see a different format of the zonal going forward as well. There are suggestions to open it up much wider. So looking at maybe at age range instead of just the secondary school, so the primary schools can get involved as well. So those are some of the discussions that are ongoing with the zonal meet, but we are happy to announce that intercall is happening this year. And you know that our main sponsor, which was Scotia, who is now Republic Bank, they are very much excited. They have indicated that to me personally, that they are very much excited about intercall. Apparently they had interest in intercall for quite some time, and now that they have it wholly and solely, we anticipate that there will be more investment in intercall going forward. And so we want to thank Republic Bank and also Scotia for the work that they would have done in ensuring that intercall remain our premier secondary school sporting event. So yes, we're going to have intercall, and it's going to be exciting.
I know Sherry said it one question.
I need clarity, and that.
Oh. Oh.
For that, for you
Thank
today.
you. Has anyone been appointed to replace Mr. Purcell as the head of the physical planning unit? Can anyone speak to that?
I think in terms of answering Linda's question and that one, I don't have that information right now, but I will make sure that through GIS that information is released to you as soon as possible. With respect to who's the PS in legal affairs and if there is a new head of the planning unit.
Well, thank you very much, members of the media. This is where we come to the end of our first post-cabinet brief for 2020. We would like to, I know that all on the head table had so much to say. I'm not sure if they have any final comments for you. So we start with...
This is the first one for the year, so I look forward to having many more post-cabinet briefings and also giving you updates of health, Ministry of Health and International Business and Social Services, Social Security. I would like to avoid as much as possible any post-cabinet briefings where I have bad news to bring you or to discuss an issue that is not pleasant, but regardless, if they are, I will be here to discuss and take your questions. And let's hope that 2020 is all pleasant and all good news moving forward. I wish you all the best of health and success.
Mr. Stephen, you have any final words?
Okay, I just want to encourage, as I said before, the general public to remain compliant, report on time, file on time, pay on time. And I also want to advise the business sector that we have partnered with the banks, and in the event that you seek financing from the banks, they always will ask the Inland Revenue or ask you to get a tax compliance certificate from the Inland Revenue. So it's in your best interest to ensure that your tax status remains in a positive light. And I want to encourage you to do so at all times. Thank you.
I too want to, on behalf of the Ministry of Youth Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts, to say that we will do everything to ensure that we continue to update the public on what we're doing, and also to personally to express best wishes to outgoing Cabinet Secretary, Mrs. Isaac. She is a solid person. She gave good guidance, and she's certainly going to be missed, and so we wish her all the best. And just one last important update, as we were talking about sports, KFC really meets. It's going to happen. KFC, we want to thank them for continuing to sponsor the meet, so you get more updates on that going forward. There is, I think there will be a media launch later on this month, I think at the 22nd. So the media will hear more about that. But I just wanted to sneak that in there before we close off this morning, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the members of the media present here and all those of you viewing us on the various media platforms. This morning we were given a lot of food for thought, a lot of information as to what's happening with the government in terms of different projects and programs, and we do hope that you are no more aware as to what's happening. So I'd just like to say thanks very much again to the Senator, the Honorable Nolan Cox, Honorable Nicholas Steele, and Mr. Stephen for sharing here with us. I am Sherry Ann Noel. Thank you very much for viewing.
I love my Grenada, my homeland forever. Sing the chorus louder, tell them about Grenada, the land of my grandfather. She will always prosper. Whoa, my Grenada, land of peace and culture.
Pure Grenada, the small but beautiful and unspoiled tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique, is located in the Caribbean with a population of just about 100,000 people. Led by Eric Matthew Gary, Grenada got its independence in 1974 from Great Britain and had 7 prime ministers since independence. Keith Mitchell is the country's sitting prime minister and is also the longest-serving prime minister in Grenada's history. He is described as one of the most visionary, respected, and accomplished leaders in the world. The large majority of Grenadians are happy with his leadership, and in 3 national elections, the people have voted and gave his party an unprecedented clean sweep at the polls. Prime Minister Mitchell has guided Grenada through difficult periods such as the rebuilding process after the passage of Hurricane Ivan in 2004, and the rebuilding of the economy after 5 years of the NDC administration that ran 2008 to 2013. During that period, the NDC government became bankrupt and was unable to manage the economy. They had to resort to selling multiple government properties to the NIS to pay salaries of public workers. At no time during that period was any public officer able to get an increase in salary or increments owed to them. The NDC government was plagued with infighting and scandal. After just 2 years in office, the NNP government paid public officers increases and increments owed to them for the period 2009 to 2012 to the tune of $58 million. An additional 10% increase in salaries was paid for the period 2017 to 2019. A total of over $110 million was paid during these periods. Officers have been relieved from financial uncertainty as they have been receiving salaries on time every month thereafter. With support from social partners, government was also able to successfully implement a 3-year homegrown structural adjustment program. As a result of this remarkable leadership and ability to manage the economy, the World Bank, in 2018, recognized Prime Minister Mitchell as the most outstanding finance minister in the region. The country continues to move on an impressive upward trajectory and is promoted as a model destination and economy not merely in a regional but international basis, as investors have been finding Grenada to be a safe, peaceful and excellent climate to do business. But how is the NNP government seen locally? The party has been branded by the majority as a party for all that has transformed the economic landscape of the country while providing for the social needs of ordinary people, especially the poor and vulnerable. This social approach of the government has been attacked and labeled by the NDC for the needy and greedy. Although this labeling has angered many Grenadians across party lines and has attempted to sow seeds of discord among various socio-economic groupings, the NNP has remained steadfast in its philosophy and continues to support the poor and vulnerable. Over the last 7 years, over $70 million was spent on house repair. Additionally, 353 housing units were distributed to families throughout Grenada, and 647 more are currently under construction. Hundreds of scholarships are granted every year as a strategy to lift families out of poverty and to empower them. That is why the government spends more than $50 million every year to support Grenadian students studying at universities in Grenada and abroad. As a means of providing further support to families, government paid out over $17 million through the SEED program to assist parents to support their children's education and to meet the basic needs of senior citizens. The government plans to further expand its social programs in 2020 so more people can benefit. To be able to sustain these social programs while at the same time investing in major capital projects such as road enhancement and community development initiatives, government has adopted a multifaceted approach to raise revenue. One such means is the Citizens by Investment program, which has led to significant investment opportunities. This has had a ripple effect, resulting in thousands of jobs for locals and increased business for local companies. It has also reduced the need for increased taxes. In addition to the many projects already started, such as the Silver Sands Hotel, which opened about a year ago, at least 4 more hotels are earmarked to start construction work in St. Patrick's and St. David's. Projects that will rebound to significant benefits for people in the rural parishes, including farmers, fishermen, and the unemployed. This multi-pronged approach to economic development can explain why the government, on returning to the office, has been able to reduce unemployment figures from over 40% under the NDC in 2013 to 15.1% in the first quarter of 2019. Government's focus is now on developing a comprehensive training program to prepare people for thousands of jobs that are forthcoming. The government must be credited for a huge reduction in the national debt. During the 2008 election campaign, the NDC accused the NNP of incurring high national debt, but the NNP has always argued that the debt, which was incurred mainly for major government projects, is not the real issue. The party has explained that the most important issue regarding the national debt is the country's ability to repay its debts. With this philosophy in mind, government was able to successfully reduce the debt to GDP from 108% to 55.8% in just 7 years. This outstanding achievement provides additional room for government to create far more opportunities for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite-Martinique. On November 19th, during his annual budget speech, Prime Minister Mitchell announced a $1.46 billion budget. One of the biggest focus of the government in this new budget will be to improve healthcare services. Already, millions have been committed to a national health insurance initiative, and JIPA, a US-based company led by a Grenadian, Dr. Castroned, was contracted to lead the process. Responding to a recent video created by a foreign company, coordinated and marketed by opposition elements in Grenada, with the intention to destroy the reputation of Prime Minister Mitchell and to destabilize the government, key supporters of the ruling party say that it is unfortunate that opposition elements in the country will choose to put selfish ambitions and party politics before country, going out of the way to discredit the country internationally with lies and rumors. But Prime Minister Mitchell says his focus now is on building Grenada and providing opportunities for the people, and as a result, he will not allow himself to be drawn into an opposition's strategy aimed at derailing the success of the country. Despite the local party politics in Grenada, the tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite-Martinique continues to be a shining star in the region and a beacon of hope for the economic prosperity of the Caribbean region.
Students, teachers and religious leaders welcome the Ministry of Education's Hour of Prayer initiative. Details of this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Monday, January 6, 2020, I am Sharian Noel. Schools across Grenada and in the Sister Isle engaged in the Ministry of Education's first Hour of Prayer initiative on Monday. Religious leaders were placed in each school to lead the 1 hour of praise and worship.
Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. A barefoot king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Very elated because God comes first in everything, and if we know in the beginning of the term that we have God behind us and in front of us and everywhere, then all we need to do is push ourselves and He's there to back us up.
That was the tone to the start of the Hillary term on Monday as education institutions across the nation followed through on an hour of prayer activity initiated by the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information. The hour of prayer was held under the theme, Teach Me to Pray and to Understand the Power of Prayer. At the Anglican High School, Archdeacon of Grenada Michael Marshall, who also holds the position of manager of the Anglican High School, says the Ministry of Education must be applauded for working along with the denominational school board in initiating the process. He says as a Christian nation, prayer is extremely important to begin any day.
It is time that we elevate that action and moment of prayer within our schools so that we can give the children that understanding that there is a source, a being that is higher than ourselves, and it is God, and that we should acknowledge Him in prayer. That we can be strengthened by not just taking our needs to Him, but allowing Him to be the source, the fountain of our strength, our being, that will allow us to grow through the day. It will allow us for us to recognize that wisdom, knowledge, understanding will not just come from within, or not just come from the school books, but will come from the higher God whom we serve.
At the J.W. Fletcher Catholic Secondary School, it was a similar situation where teachers spoke to the students about the importance of prayer and songs were sung. Former teacher of religious affairs at the school, Reverend Father Gabriel, says there is no better way to begin the new school term amidst of the many challenges faced by both students and teachers.
You know, God is the source of all that we have and are. And as the Bible says, in Him we live, we move and have our being. We have no being except in Him. So there's nothing we can do without God. God is the source. So we got to start everything that pertains our life in Him. Because if He's not there, nothing is there. So our life, our existence, we owe it to God. So I think it's very important for us to put all our activities, all that has to do with us and the school, the beginning of the school term and the beginning of the new year into the hands of God, who is the Creator, who is in charge and in control of our lives, asking Him to see us through.
Principal of the South St. George Government School, David Adams, told his students that while they are an institution that ensures prayer forms part of the everyday activity, it is indeed a welcome initiative to have all schools participate in an hour of prayer to begin the new school term.
Today we want to focus upon God. Prayer is talking. Actually, prayer is talking. Prayer is talking to God. And so today we want you and all of us to focus more and talk to God more so that our lives will be a better one and God will be pleased with us.
Pastor Royston Gilbert of the Springs Open Bible Church also took the time to visit with the students and partake in the hour of prayer. He told the GIS that prayer is important in every aspect of one's life.
From the time you are born to the time you pass, prayer is important. Prayer is what will keep us, prayer is what will lead us, and prayer is what will keep us. Because when we pray, we speak to God. And in speaking to God, He will hear, and He will answer us, and He will direct us. So I believe it is very important that in all aspects, we should pray. I want to applaud the government for the initiative they have taken in starting up the entire school system in prayer. I really want to applaud them for doing so. Because prayer is very important. Without prayer, nothing is prayer.
Reverend Silbert Prescott guided the process at the St. Andrew's Methodist School, reminding the students and teachers that prayer should remain a vital part of their everyday lives. Still with news of the Ministry of Education's Hour on Prayer, Education Minister Honorable Emmeline Pear led a similar exercise at the ministry's headquarters in Tantine with all staff present. They engaged in prayer and enjoyed prayers and worship session at the same time as this was being executed in all of the nation's schools. Government is continuing its mandate to improve the services offered at the General Hospital. In 2019, government, through the Ministry of Health, made an investment in the construction of an improved kitchen facility at the General Hospital. The hospital kitchen facility is expected to be completed and functioning at its optimum by mid-2020. Acting Director of Hospital Services, Dr. Carol McIntosh, gave an update on the progress of the project to date.
The new kitchen that will be coming in, it is a 2-story floor. We're bringing it in, and in there it will be much more spacious, so that it will allow for better cooking, allow for us to be able to expand and handle and address having to provide meals for 200 people per day, and that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when we say 200, because it also includes our doctors and staff who are on call, who have to stay on site, we provide meals for them.
The 2-story facility, which is constructed in keeping with the hazard analysis and critical control points of the HACCP standards, is being constructed with the stipulated flow space, which will allow for improved frozen food storage and food preparation management.
The kitchen, as you can see, that it will be more spacious, that will allow for us to keep all of our frozen foods on site and allow for us to be able to manage a larger meal. It's not like we're cooking at home. We're cooking for a hospital, so we're cooking it in mass numbers. So that is what it's working towards, and that is something that we are not only within the construction making sure that it's spacious, but also making sure that it's fastidious, that it is clean, because of the fact that this is going back into the hospital. So we're looking at having, as always, advisors, people who have done this before, to assist us within this.
Dr. McIntosh stated that the Ministry of Health also gave consideration for the setting up of a cafeteria at the hospital.
The second part is the cafeteria, because right now we have to be on site and we don't have any source of food for us. So we cannot wait for the cafeteria to be opened. That one would most likely be on the top floor of administration, where we would convert one of our buildings into the cafeteria right next to the kitchen, and that would be run specifically for staff and visitors and allowing for them to have foods that would be there. So that would be an additional thing.
The new kitchen is expected to cost in excess of $75,000. This is a national report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985, and served continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months, and retired at age 60, may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS, represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. Tickets go on sale on Monday for the third ODI in Ireland to the West Indies tour at the National Cricket Stadium on January 12th, along with tickets for the first T20 also at the National Cricket Stadium. Chair of the local organizing committee, Norman Gilbert, says preparatory work at the facility for the games are ongoing and nearing completion. Chair of the local organizing committee for the Ireland to West Indies cricket matches to be played in Grenada, Norman Gilbert, says work is at advanced stages to ensure that Grenada successfully hosts the third ODI on January 12th and the first one-day international on January 15th at the National Cricket Stadium. Gilbert says it is not the first time that they have been tasked with the responsibility of overseeing all the preparatory works ahead of the international cricket match in Grenada. Grenada last hosted international cricket on February 25th and 27, 2018, when England toured the West Indies. He says to have international cricket return to Grenada and to be successful at hosting the matches is one that the government, through the Ministry of Sports, must be applauded for.
The National Stadium, as you know, we just hosted international matches in February of last year. And so there was a lot of work done by the Stadium Authority, Ministry of Sports, in terms of the facility itself. So that in itself is almost ready. We also have well in place the security plan for the game, which would include the security for the teams, the escorts, as well as security for the days of the events that is going to be taking place at the National Stadium. The parking would most likely be done at the stadium car park. We await final approval from the Ministry of Sports for parking in the Wesley College playing field. Of course, we understand the weather has not been too kind, and if it continues to rain, we may not be able to use the Wesley College playing field for parking. But of course, parking is available in limited amount at the stadium car park.
The teams are expected in Grenada 2 days prior to match day.
The teams would arrive here on January 10th, both West Indies and Ireland. We have a couple practice days just before the game. In terms of the overall preparation of the teams, I believe that the series would begin on January 7th in Barbados as the first two matches in the ODI series. Once the teams arrive, we are going to be putting the full plan in place in terms of ensuring that the teams are safe and that the matches are going to be of a high quality, high standard. The local organizing committee has persons who have been working there for quite a while in terms of the expertise in the different areas. Whilst we understand that every game is different, but I believe that we have what it takes to ensure that the games operate effectively.
Ticket office will open on Monday, January 6th at the National Cricket Stadium, the regular outlet for ticket sales.
I must also indicate that in regard to the ticket sales, we would be utilizing only part of the stadium for this game, whilst we want to encourage the whole of the Grenada to come out and to support. We do not expect to have a filled stadium based on the level of the team that we're playing, but at the same time, we want to encourage all persons to come out. So we are utilizing the party stand. The party stand tickets is going to be $15 EC. We also utilizing the Junior Murray Rollo stand. That stand, both levels of that stand would be $40 EC. And we're utilizing part of the members pavilion, which would be $67.50 EC, based on our ticket pricing. We also expect that it's going to be open seating, so persons can feel free to come in and to sit anywhere within the stands. And we expect that we're going to come out in large numbers to support both teams, West Indies and Ireland, as they engage in exciting cricket. Of course, the one-day international is first. That will be on the 12th, starting from 9 in the morning. And the T20 on the Wednesday the 15th would begin at 1 p.m.
And with this story, we come to the end of the National Report for Monday, January 6th, 2020. On behalf of the entire news production team, I am Sharian Noel, thanking you for viewing. The government of Grenada is making good on its commitment to reconstruct the Simon Cultural Centre in St. Andrew. With Phase 1 complete that saw the demolition of the existing pavilion, work is now far advanced on Phase 2 of the project, which scope of works includes fencing of the perimeter at a contracted cost of $200,000. Our State of Affairs team accompanied Honourable Kate Lewis, Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Andrew North East, on a tour of the project. The reconstruction of the facility, she says, is important not only for her constituents, but the entire country, as major cultural events were held at the venue prior to its destruction by the passage of Hurricane Ivan on September 7, 2004. Minister Lewis outlined the scope of works already undertaken and highlighted the fact that already a number of young men from the area have gained employment from Phase 1 and 2 of the project.
And what we are seeing here is actually the second phase of the Simon Cultural Centre project. Last year we did the first phase, which was the demolition of the old structure. So in the second phase, the fencing of the grounds for the cultural center. It is important that we fence before we start the construction because we need to protect the materials and everything else that will be there. So what you are seeing happening now is the preparation for the actual fencing. So you'll see some of the holes been dug and the poles been planted or so. But this is the second phase. So far, the contract has already been signed and the work is taking place. The contractor is on scene with some of the workers here. We expect to have, throughout the whole project, over 20-30 persons involved on a rotation basis employed in the fencing phase of this project. The estimated cost of this project is almost $200,000. We had budgeted over $300,000, but based on the work that has to be done, it's over $200,000.
Due to the number of years that the site has been left unattended, community members have used it for their personal interest. One such interest is that of a mechanic. While this is so, Minister Lewis says dialogue has already been had with the individual, who has since given the commitment to remove the derelict vehicles from the site well in advance of Phase 3 of the project.
Yes, because the area seemed to be abandoned for quite some time, we have a mechanic set up here where he usually would do his mechanic work. But what has happened, we have already spoken to him. He's cooperating very well and has planned and is prepared to move the vehicles as soon as we are ready.
The Simon Cultural Centre will be upgraded from what it was initially to a more modern facility with a number of added amenities.
The Simon Cultural Centre will mean a lot for us in the community of Paradise and Simon. We have seen, myself growing up in this community, the economic benefits that the Cultural Centre brought to the residents of this area, being able to generate an income with the amount of shows, the cultural activities that would normally take place here. So I know everybody is happy, even at the national level, because it signifies, the interest and the importance of culture to us as a people. And I'm happy that, we are well on the way to bring back our Simon Cultural Centre. We are going to be doing a modern structure, a climate-smart building, catering for the needs of everyone. Of course, we want to maintain the traditional aspect of it, where we had the pavilion setting. We're going to have that again. We will have downstairs a pavilion, office spaces where we can have skills training for our young people within the surrounding areas. Well, the intention of this project is to bring back the the Melody Papitet semi-finals back to Simon, where it really belongs. Everybody used to look forward to that Sunday, that Carnival Sunday, where you had the Melody Papitet semi-finals, and I myself looked forward to it then, and will be doing so now.
Phase 2 of the project has been contracted out to Kurt Rennie. He spoke to the scope of work already carried out and the importance of the project to the people of the community.
The project has started this week, making it 3 weeks, right? And so far we are in the phase of casting the poles. We already dig the hole, dig the trench. Right now we're in the casting phase of the poles.
How many men do you have with you to execute this job?
At present we'll be working on rotation, We'll try to do it in phase. So in this phase we have at least 8 men. And the next phase after, which is pulling up the fence, we'll hire a different set. So in all, it might come up to about 40 workers. The perimeter is 1,700 feet, which will be included barbed wire, the casting, the footing, and fencing. So that's basically it.
Are you the ones who be erecting the gates at the front as well?
We basically know the project manager, he determine where the gates go and we establish it.
I'm also seeing some excavation on the sides for the roadway and so.
Basically, the roadway is to access to the people in the village in the back. So they give them one entrance on this end and then the next one on the end, which is accessible for them.
To ensure that residents are not affected in any way by the ongoing construction, 2 access roads have been opened.
Usually the residents would pass through the Simon Cultural Center area to get to their homes. But we did not want to disadvantage, and as a result of that, two new roads have been worked on presently, as you can see, so that they can gain access, one at the front and one at the back. So they have 2 roads in which they can use to access their homes. The residents are extremely happy because they know what the Simon Cultural Center could do for them in terms of, the economic benefits they will receive. They are actually excited and cannot wait for the project to really come on stream and be completed.
One resident spoke of the importance of the project.
I feel good about that. It's good to have the community center in Simon. To build the place, Simon need to develop. You need to have more activities going on in Grenada and more.
The draft plan of what the Simon Cultural Center and its environ will look like on completion will be unveiled to the community ahead of commencement of work on Phase 3 of the project. And that's the state of affairs. I am Sherry Noel.